In 1795, the small master clothiers of the West Riding were actively canvassing support for a bill for restoring and preserving entire the late system of carrying on the cloth manufacturing. Until lately, that system has been by clothes being manufactured by persons residing in different villages in the county and sold in the public halls in Leeds to merchants who did not follow the manufacturing of clothes. Of late, several merchants have become manufacturers of clothes, and for the better carrying on such manufactory, have erected very large buildings, which are called factories, wherein they intend to employ clothiers as their servants, so that persons who, with their families, have been dispersed, as before mentioned, will be associated together within or near those buildings in a dependent state. The bill, which sought to prevent merchant manufacturers for supplementing their orders by buying clothes in the public halls, was intended to preserve a system of trade which has been productive of more independence, prosperity, and morality, and consequently of greater happiness than any other branch of manufacture in the kingdom. The gap in status between a servant, a hired wage laborer, subject to the orders and discipline of the master, and an artisan who might come and go as he pleased, was wide enough for men to shed blood rather than allow themselves to be pushed from one side to the other. And in the value system of the community, those who resisted degradation were in the right. In 1797, the first steam mill was built in Bradford to the accompaniment of menacing and hooting crowds. The little makers of the West Riding saw in the many chimneyed progeny of Arkwright across the Pennines the death warrant of their own domestic industry. The small masters who supported the institution or clothiers community between 1802 and 1806 had at their backs a general theory of moral economy. It is easy to forget how evil a reputation the new cotton mills had acquired. They were centers of exploitation, monstrous prisons in which children were confined, centers of immorality and of industrial conflict. Above all, they reduced the industrious artisan to a dependent state. A way of life was at stake for the community, and hence we must see the croppers' opposition to particular machines as being very much more than a particular group of skilled workers defending their own livelihood. These machines symbolized the encroachment of the factory system. So strongly were the moral presuppositions of some clothiers engaged that we know of cases where they deliberately suppressed labor saving inventions, while Richard Ostler's father in 1800 sold up a prospering business rather than employ machinery, which he regarded as a means of oppression on the part of the rich and of corresponding degradation and misery to the poor. It was this feeling among clothiers, master cloth dressers, artisans, and laborers of all descriptions, and even some professional men, which gave a sanction to the Luddites and afforded them protection. General Grey, commanding the troops in the West Riding in 1812, commented with dismay upon how much the opinion and wishes of even the more respectable portion of the inhabitants are in unison with the deluded and ill-disposed populace with respect to the present object of their resentment, ging mills and shearing frames, and this extends also to persons having mills of a different description employed in the manufacturing branch. These feelings existed also in the Midlands, where no important improvements in machinery were at issue. The master stockingers, tradesmen, artisans, and even some of the hosiers were wholly on the framework knitters' side, most certainly during their appeal to Parliament in 1812. The bill making frame breaking a capital offence was deprecated even by those hosiers whose interests it was supposed to defend. And in this light, the conventional picture of the ludism of these years as a blind opposition to machinery as such becomes less and less tenable. What was at issue was the freedom of the capitalist to destroy the customs of the trade, whether by new machinery, by the factory system, or by unrestricted competition, beating down wages, undercutting his rivals, and undermining standards of craftsmanship.